Ladies and gentlemen, this season, Bungie went ahead and brought back the Doo-Doo's Breath from Destiny 1, in which it was nicknamed the Doo-Doo's Breath. It really wasn't that good, especially with how Galley was so oppressive whenever Dragon's Breath first entered the scene. However, we are in a much different era, different meta, and an entirely different game today. The Destiny 2 version of the Dragon's Breath is actually pretty damn good, especially in solo play. Honestly, it might be one of the best exotics to use in solo play, especially if you're doing like a solo flawless dungeon or just doing a dungeon by yourself. So let's go ahead and look at the Dragon's Breath real quick and just look at it at face value and what it does. We'll look at its main exotic perk first, Composite Propellant, in which rockets embed themselves in struck targets and periodically eject incendiary fuel that inflicts scorch. The longer this weapon goes without firing, the more fuel the next rocket contains. And I believe without the catalyst, without doing anything, just chilling like at very, very low, its base cooldown in which it can get up to max fuel, I think is like 27 seconds, which does sound kind of bad. However, if we look at its other perk, High Octane, this is what really helps it. Igniting nearby targets partially replenishes fuel. This weapon refills itself. From reserves upon gaining maximum fuel. This perk is really good because the Dragon's Breath automatically ignites any target that at least can withstand the rocket that has been stuck to the target, so a boss. And even without the catalyst, the Dragon's Breath will be able to auto reload its magazine after there have been 2 ignitions on the boss, which means this weapon can act sort of like an anarchy. Actually, that is exactly how you want to treat this weapon. That is also why you don't want multiple people using Dragon's Breath in your fire team, as the game has trouble registering multiple ignitions and then registering who exactly got those ignitions. So it can definitely throw up a rotation that you're doing with it, and it will not be nearly as effective as if you just had one person in your fire team rocking the Dragon's Breath. Now, its catalyst allows the weapon to replenish its fuel much quicker. And the second part of the catalyst might be useful in something like GMs, as defeating targets with this weapon causes them to periodically drop fire sprites. Now this can definitely help it out even more so in a damage rotation, although, like I said earlier, without the catalyst, after 2 ignitions on the boss, the Dragon's Breath will be automatically reloaded. So I did decide to go ahead and use this against the Locust boss a decent bit, just trying to get some decent damage phases in with it on a Solar Warlock. Not saying I kind of whiffed a few, but you know, whatever. And I also did some other rotations on the Grasp of Avarice Ogre just to see exactly the flow, the timing of this rocket launcher. And as long as you can register when the 2 ignitions have passed, you'll basically never mess up your damage rotation. It's a pretty forgiving weapon as well, and it's honestly pretty darn good. Now this season, we do have access to things like Solo Operative and Argent Ordnance, along with something like Revitalizing Blast. So if you're on a solar subclass, you can debuff the target with your solar abilities. That's why you guys see your boy be chucking a lot of Sunbracer grenades. If you're by yourself, which this weapon excels the best in solo content, or where there's only one person in your fire team using the Dragon's Breath, that's just 15% more damage from everything you're using. And then Argent Ordnance is another 15% damage increase to your rockets. Now granted, you're not spam firing Dragon's Breath. That's not how you want to use it at all. You definitely want to use this bad boy in a rotation. And we also have the seasonal artifact mod of Torch this season, in which while Radiant, you deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by Strand and Stasis debuffs. Meaning you could run something like the Scatter Signal with Unraveling Rounds, or a Chill Clip Riptide in your kinetic slot, tag the boss with it, and now you're going to be doing 5% more damage to that boss from all of your weapons. And yes, Torch does work while you are in a Well of Radiance, which is pretty darn good. So if you are by yourself and you need to do some good boss damage, Dragon's Breath is absolutely S tier option, and it might honestly even be the best option, at least in terms of your exotic slot. And as long as you are doing a proper rotation, you're waiting for those 2 ignitions to go, and you're firing the rocket when it has composite propellant times 5, so you get the maximum scorch benefits, you will be seeing this thing absolutely do some mad tier damage. And since the rocket is already doing all of this scorch and ignition damage for you, I would not even try or recommend building into more ignitions by like using something like Apotheosis Veil. The rocket launcher already does that for you. It's going to get you your 2 ignitions and auto reload itself. So this is where you want to commit to some really strong special weapons to pair it with. Maybe something like a Kinetic Tremor Supremacy, although I did say you should use Torch, which can give you a 5% total damage buff to all of your weapons, as long as you hit the boss with a Stasis or Strand debuff. But I'm just giving you some options, right? What about when this season's over? Maybe pair it with a really good fusion rifle in the energy slot as well, something like maybe a Cartesian or an Aramite. Just something to shoot the boss in between Dragon's Breath shots while it's igniting the boss. Because if you do not shoot it, when it's got composite propellant times 5, you lose a lot of damage. Don't shoot, reload, shoot it. Don't use Rain of Fires with it. Treat it like an auto-loading rocket that does an absolute absurd amount of scorch and free ignitions. You do not want to spam this weapon at all. Another cool little rotation that I think would work pretty well is if you are on Hunter. Let's say you pop your Celestial Golden Gun right before damage starts, and then you hot swap over to a Lucky Pants build with Warden's Law. You could shoot your Dragon's Breath after you hit the boss with your Goldie, of course. Shoot him with the Dragon's Breath, swap to your Warden's Law with 4 times the charm and Vorpal Weapon, and then when you become out of luck, which I believe you'll become out of luck right around the same time that the 2 ignitions would gone off from Dragon's Breath, in which you could then swap back to D Breath, shoot it, then swap to your energy slot. Maybe you have something like a Cartesian or an Aramite in that slot. Do a few shots of that, and then go back to your Warden's Law, and then continue to shoot that until your Dragon's Breath is reloaded. Remember, it is the 2 ignitions that is the green light that your Dragon's Breath has been auto reloaded. But regardless, dude, this is going to be a very strong rocket to use in solo play, or just have one person use it in a fire team scenario going forward. This thing is really, really good, and a lot of people were memeing on it before it even came out. Kind of ironic how it turned out to be one of the best exotics to use in solo play. It's like a modern day version of the Anarchy, or a rocket solar version of the Anarchy. And it was definitely worth running the 50 strikes to get this weapons catalyst, baby. Absolute Giga Chad Shark rocket launcher, and I'm really glad that it is so darn good. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts and opinions on the Destiny 2 version of the Dragon's Breath down in the comments below. Your favorite rotations with it, if you've used it in any solo dungeon runs, or anything else you have to say about the Dragon's Breath rocket launcher. Remember, if you ever want to get your games and DLC for a cheaper price, you make sure you hit up Instant Gaming, top link in the description, along with their free monthly game giveaway that they do every single month. And of course, we got the G Fuel link as well. If you ever want to save some money on G Fuel, you can use code Kree for 20% off at checkout. Become the Giga Chad you are always meant to be. You guys be safe, take care, consider subscribing, and I'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Adios!